advice would you give to people who are dealing with certain STDs or who come in? Yo, there he is, the man of the hour.
Hey, am I muted? Oh,
My
I'm
man,
not.
tell us your name. Tell us where you're from. Who
Yeah,
are you?
my name's Courtney Brame. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. I just moved out to New Jersey May 1st to get closer to New
Okay.
York. And I run a nonprofit organization supporting people navigating herpes stigma and educating healthcare professionals on how to best inform patients about herpes and sexual health.
Mhm. I I am so grateful for the work that you're doing. I do believe that stigmatization and perspective is such a huge part of how we interact with each other. And if we can remove any of the negative connotations that comes with being a human, then we can accept each other a little bit more. So talk to us first. Let's just get down to the grassroots. What's the difference between type 1 and type 2 herpes?
I'm gonna answer that, but then y'all asked a question earlier too about two people not having an STI and then somebody getting one.
Yes.
So
You got some first?
yeah, if two people have negative statuses, assuming that like two people are having sex for the first time, and when I say sex, I mean generally intercourse, if that's what we're talking about, then
Mhm.
somebody shouldn't pass it on to the other person. This
Right.
kind of ties into your question about the difference between type 1 herpes and type 2 herpes. So, type 1 is
Hmm.
typically associated with the mouth and oral herpes, and type 2 is typically associated with genital herpes. You can get either one in either location. So, if somebody goes and get tested at the doctor, they get a full panel, right? And then their partner gets a full panel. They both come back. They're like, hey, I don't have anything. You don't have anything, and then they have sex and somebody gets herpes, it's typically because you're not tested for herpes. So a lot of times, like a full panel
Interesting.
test is chlamydia, gonorrhea,
Right.
syphilis, HIV, typically a hepatitis or type A, B, or C. And I think that's really it. But you typically have to ask for a herpes test. And then even if you ask, it will be like some resistance if you're not showing or presenting any symptoms. So to answer that question about the sex toys, if two people are aware that they don't have anything, there should be no issues. So like you can't just manifest an
Right.
STI out of nowhere.
Okay. Okay. But it comes with lack of knowledge and not, even though they're asking for a full panel, they're not getting all the different possibilities. So where I'm interested to know how we can remove some of the stigma from these STIs.
Thank you for the way you worded that, right? So what you just did there, you talked about removing the stigma, right? A lot of people talk about ending stigma, destroy the stigma, right? All these violent words. And I think that not feeding more violence and negativity and misinformation into it, that's step one. So I talk about minimizing stigma because a lot of people who get an STI or come in contact with somebody and they're talking about their sexual health, herpes, whatever, what happens is they kind of make that the priority. And like you begin to look at a person and you're like, oh, like this is what they're about. And that's not typically the case. Like we'll put so much of a priority on sexual health that we forget it's a whole ass person, right there that
Yeah.
needs to be taken into consideration. So that's step one really is removing that negative language, the harmful language that's associated with it.
I love that. Dakota, do you have anything to add to that?
I I used to teach kids sex ed, like health, right? Grades 5
Sure.
to 8. Have
Yeah.
conversations about this. Like kids use language like, "Ooh, they're dirty. Ooh, you have herpes. Ooh, you have this. You have that." And a lot of times when we would find out the actual information, like I would have them do their own research, and we would because it wasn't in the curriculum. But I'm like, since y'all are talking about it, well, now we got to learn about it. It's a
Right.
joke. At least the joke makes sense and it's witty
Mm-hmm.
because it's accurate. So
Mm-hmm.
inquiry
Mm-hmm.
and also teaching transferable skills about like how do you find a credible source about sexual health versus something that's like fake news or not credible source. A lot of that language that they would use with each other evolved into you're
Mm-hmm.
weird or you're annoying versus you're dirty, you have her. They had a new sense of like understanding about these things that real people live with and go through. And it's like the difference between ignorance and willful ignorance. If you just don't know, you don't know. But once you know, if you are now making a decision to uphold the ignorance you were living in before, that becomes a choice. And I oftentimes see that it's adults that struggle with this change in perspective. And it could just be because, you know, whatever, your brain stops developing at 25 and what they say, but not even the sense of like children are more malleable. I think because of less experiences and being set in their ways, they're more open and receptive to information and maybe taking on a different perspective versus adults are like, I've been this way, I'm going to stay this way, this is who I am. And I think one of the most beautiful things about humans is that we evolve and there's room for change and growth. But it's difficult to evolve when we're not informed.
I 100% agree with you, Courtney. You're on the front lines, and you're seeing people every day, and you're working with people who are have STIs. How do you? What I guess what concrete tools can you give us to help minimize the negative connotation towards STIs?
Empathy. I think
Empathy.
that that's probably the biggest thing. So
Mhm.
I got diagnosed with genital herpes in 2011, 12, something like that.
Mhm.
It was shortly after college. And I didn't have a lot of sexual partners at the time. And I was someone who used condoms. And like, I learned that condoms don't cover the entire affected area of where you might have
Mm,
on.
that
So,
part. Yo, speak on that because people use condoms and think, oh, I'm using a condom, I'm good.
yeah,
Wow, I'm good. But there are portions of the genital area that isn't covered entirely by the
yes.
condoms.
And, um, there's a lot of misinformation out there. So we're like, when I speak to the whole empathy component, it's just understanding. Like I've been interviewing people with herpes mostly, but other STIs as well since 2017. And
Hmm.
consistently, when I do surveys, a third of the people express that they had suicide ideation because of their diagnosis. That's
Mm,
30%
mm,
of the people who, now I want to be clear that most people who have herpes are okay. I would say about
okay,
15% of the most people, that's the population that I mostly speak with because they're
okay,
struggling with stigma. They're struggling with their diagnosis. These are the people
sure,
that I talk to. I don't talk to people
yeah,
who like are living their life and they're fine with their diagnosis. So
sure,
I just wanted
sure,
to like
sure,
set that, expectation there. But that empathy component really speaks to the mental health aspect of it because a lot of people tie their identity into their sex and sexuality, right? And you get this diagnosis and it's not, damn, my sexuality is impacted or my sexual health is impacted. It's that my identity is now impacted. Like, who am I now? I'm dirty. How can I have
mm,
relationships? How can I have sex? Right? So this
yeah,
is really where the challenge becomes.
yeah. I have I practice trying to release attachment to any and all identifications. Being a doctor, I'm grateful to be a doctor, but I'm not attached to that identification. Being a son, I'm grateful to be a son, but I'm not attached to that identification. Being a black man, being a man, all of these identifications that we carry with us on a daily basis, if we can practice removing the identification and the attachment to that identification, then we can create a space between that and the suffering that comes with having an STI, being a black man in America, blah, 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 blah. We can create that separation. Then we can start to move in a way where it doesn't completely like take over our experience. And I think that's pretty much what you're saying is having empathy allows you to step away from it and step into a type of acceptance of it. So, Dakota, I want you to talk more because you deal with patients in a different way. The people that come to you, they're excited, they're vulnerable, they're how close do you get with people, and what advice do you give to people who are working through their sexual relationship with STIs?
So I do like relationship coaching. So I have clients in that sense, and then I have people coming in from the adult toy shop. So
Hmm.
look, we look at like people like Courtney's resources, and
Hmm.
the teacher in
Hmm.
me is like, well, let's look at the actual information, the facts,
Yeah.
the numbers,
Mm-hmm.
and now let's humanize that information. So what people out
Mm-hmm.
there are living with herpes or other
Mm-hmm.
STIs and have very fulfilling sex lives that have amazing partnerships, because it's almost as if they're like forced into this area of being transparent and having more conversations around sexual health, which everyone's
Mm-hmm.
doing. But
Mm-hmm.
notice that through those lived experiences of having that diagnosis, that conversation can come up more because now you're intimate with this person and that person. So it's like, here's the information, here's the facts. Now let's humanize this and show that there's potential for you to have pleasure, to have great sex, to have the kind of relationship that you envision for yourself, right? Like those identifiers you were speaking to before, they're
Mm-hmm.
parts of our identity, and it can give
Mm-hmm.
us and other people information about how we move and navigate in the world. But those are just like little parts of us that make up who we really are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, Courtney, talk to us. How can we have a thriving sexual lifestyle with
Yeah,
STIs?
communication. So much of it is like, people say communicate, 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 but learning the how of that, and it's a lot of what Dakota shared, right? With being connected with your body and knowing what it is that you like, and then also being brave enough to communicate what you like to partners. If there is somebody that you want to share that kind of a connection with, and understand too, like I think a lot of people think that the first time you have sex with somebody who has herpes that you're gonna get it, and that's not the case. There are many people who have it, don't show any symptoms, don't even know that they have it, and sometimes people find out because they were accidentally tested for it and they're like, yo, what's this? I didn't ask for this, right? Most people would typically rather not know. There's studies that are shown on this. Most people would rather not know what their status is than know and be able to do something about it. So I would say like that knowing what you want is more important than anything else. Like being able to communicate what your health status is and being able to take whatever action you need to in order to minimize the possibility of exposures or transmissions, but also like understanding that there's a survey that I did that showed it was a little bit over 70% of people who are living with herpes who have partners. It's discordant dating, where one partner is positive and the other is negative or doesn't know their status. These people have gone on to have consensual sexual relationships without barriers and not pass the virus on to their partner. And
So, are you saying that you can have sex raw and not transmit the STD?
yes, I'm saying
That's
now,
that's
let me
that's
say
great
this. Let me
news.
say
That's
this.
great
Hold on. Let me
news.
say this though. Like the odds of passing it on are significantly greater when there is a physical presence of the virus. Because a lot of people don't understand herpes is a nerve condition that the virus lives in nerves, and it comes out. I look at it as like a tenant to your body hosts all these organisms, bacteria, viruses. Herpes just so happens to be one of those. And as long as like it's hot outside right now, right? If the air conditioner working, I'm staying in the house. But let this air go out and I need to get out. I'm banging on the door. I want to talk to the landlord. Hey, you need to cut this AC on or I'm out of here. And that's kind of what the equivalent of those physical symptoms are. If you're not taking care of your body, your nutrition, stress
That's-
level, those kinds of things, then herpes wants you to come fix the AC.
hold on. Did you say stress levels? So are you telling me that if I live in a high stressful environment, then I have a higher chance of like breaking out, I guess, with herpes? Is that how it
Yeah,
works?
so it's really about the immune system. Like
Okay.
if your immune system is lower and unable to keep the virus at bay or in the apartment complex, right? So if you level is level,
Mm-hmm.
like y'all chilling, y'all get along fine. But the minute you start tripping, you eat. For me, I learned that having excess amounts of sugar was a trigger for me. And I've had 3 outbreaks over the almost 12 years now that I've had it. And one was I got fired from a job. I was living in a new city. That was the second one. The first one was the first. And then the most recent one I had was 2021, over a weekend of a lot of drinking and a lot of sugar. It was these sugary drinks that if Sprite and Hawaiian Punch had a baby, that's what it was. So I had an outbreak and I was like, yo, I probably need to watch my sugar. And I happened to go
Mhm.
to the doctor not too long after that, and he was like, hey, did you know you were like at that line for becoming pre-diabetic? And I was like, yo, if I
Yeah.
didn't get that outbreak, I would have kept eating and drinking the way that I was. So herpes is happy with me. I ain't pass it on to nobody, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
We chilling.
It's almost like a checks and balance. Like, yo, if if I'm here, there's a problem, basically. So Dakota, are there foods, drinks? Because I know like alcohol and like even like different sugars can change the pH balance of the vaginal canal. Are there foods that you stay away from, or drinks that you advise that people stay away from? Just in general health for conversations with the coochie.
I mean, just having a balanced diet, like drinking water, you can treat yourself, right? Here and when
Hmm.
people do the 80-20 rule, whatever it is, staying away from processed foods, you know,
Hmm.
eating your veggies and your fruits and drinking a lot of water and getting good sleep, like the basics of self-care and like being at your optimal health level really is like, across the board for everyone really good. And like I have a drink every now and then, like it's okay to partake in that, but when you also look at how alcohol acts in the body, it is a depressant.
Yeah.
Alcohol is
Yeah.
not good for you. It's not.
It's
It's
not, it's not good for anything, really.
we have our vices. Like it's an
Right.
experience thing, a social thing that people do, but everything in
Mhm.
moderation. Have a balanced diet. Make sure I was resistant to like my vegetables and I had to eat them. Like that's just the reality. And it's gonna take time for your body to adjust as well if you're used to having processed foods and fake sugars and going out all the time. But you find that balance and it almost makes it that much fun and meaningful when you get to
Yeah.
like
I, I'm I'm so with you. In my world, Marcia said, "Okay, thanks, scary stuff. I'm gonna stay in my house." No, no, you don't. We're not trying to make you go in the house more. We're trying to give you the tools and the power. That way, you can move safely and healthily in this environment. So how? Okay, so how can we not scare people? Oh, we have a few minutes left. I want my community to move forward in their sex because I'm all about the sex, baby. Like, yo, do your thing. Like, live pleasure. Like, get it how you live, but do it in a healthy way. How can we? What? I just want to give the people something that they can move forward with that'll kind of give them erase some of their fear, help them work with their fear. Like she said, "I will die alone." Oh no! Oh
it's
oh!
gonna be okay. It's gonna be
It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay, Marcy. It's gonna be okay.
If I can say something real
Please,
quick. All right.
please, please.
So people don't start having these conversations about sexual health until somebody tells somebody like, hey, I have something that I need to tell you, right? Like
Mhm.
a lot of times we default to, do I need this condom? And that's the end of the conversation. There's
Yeah.
not conversations about birth control. It ain't conversations about what to
Right.
do if we get something, right? So I
Right.
often say that like people who do have STIs, herpes, HIV, these are the people who are in fact leading these conversations. And as messed up as it sounds, right? Like because of that moral high ground or whatever, like if it wasn't for us, people wouldn't be having these conversations because we're initiating. I can't tell you how many people I know who, before their diagnosis, I asked too, like, how often did you talk to partners about um, getting tested or communicating or condoms? How many of y'all wear condoms for oral sex? Nobody, right? So we gotta be real about what these risks are. And if you really don't want anything, be abstinent, right? But you got to understand
Yeah.
that there's going to always be this inherent possibility. I don't like the word risk, but there's always going to be like a possibility, especially if you're not taught how to communicate and ask for those things you need, such as, hey, I want to be, this is what I'm trying to do. Here's what the risks are. I need to be tested. I need to see you tested. And, if you really want to be a stickler, you need to ask for the paperwork because people can lie. But I don't say that to scare you. Like I say that to empower you with the tools of communication. And a lot of times too, when people are exposed, like the biggest regret is who they had sex with. So don't be having sex with people that you don't like either, right? Because that
Mm.
regret is what a lot of people really linger on. They're like, I knew I shouldn't have done this, shouldn't have had sex with this person, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Of course, they did
Yeah.
this. And that just comes from not knowing what you need, what you want, what you like, and being able to communicate what your needs are in order to have as safe of an experience that is as pleasurable as it can be. And I'll just stop it there for you.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Dakota, please.
I have this hashtag that Instagram loves and they hate it, and it's hashtag happy healthy hoe. And there's like layers to it. One, it's like reclaiming the term hoe
Yeah.
as something that doesn't have to be negative and also doesn't have to mean that you're having sex with a bunch of people, which is usually, the
That
do it. But
part.
the happy and the healthy part comes from
Mm.
identifying what you actually want. And I'm going to say this, but a lot of people say, oh, I want a relationship, but I'm okay with just having casual sex with this guy that I know really doesn't like me and really doesn't want a relationship. I want a monogamous relationship, but I'm okay with my partner having sex with other people because, like, I'm going with the flow, or vice
Mm.
versa, right? What do you want? Why
Mm.
it? And then what does it look like to put that into action? So the healthy part,
Mm.
what do you want? Why do you
Mm.
want it? The happy
Mhm.
speaks to what Courtney was saying, or the healthy part, I'm sorry, speaks to
Mhm.
what Courtney,
Mhm.
having conversations,
Mm.
having boundaries that are in line with your values.
Mm.
A lot of
Mm.
us,
I
boundaries are
oh, go ahead.
rules. And if you can identify what you value, then you create boundaries
Mhm.
that are in line with those things. And it's easier to say, okay, this person is doing something that's in line with that, or I'm doing something that's in line with that.
Mm.
So know what you
Mm.
want, know why you want it, adapt and get the skills to actually make
Mhm.
it happen. And
Mm.
your happy, healthy whole life can literally look like whatever you want it to be, but it needs to be a conscious decision and a conscious process.
Mm. Honesty over everything. That's a hoe.
That's right.
That's a hoe. Honestly, I'm gonna be honest with everything that I want, and I'm gonna still get everything that I want, and I'm gonna get it in abundance, and that's gonna be my new definition of a hoe. Honesty over everything. Well, yo, you guys are fucking awesome. Courtney, you got any last words for us?
I was
Promote.
gonna say, you better put that on the t-shirt. You better put that on the t-shirt for somebody else do it. But
That
last
part.
thing I was
Yo, y'all get the t-shirt
yes,
ready.
yes. I say like, well, first off, thanks for having me on, man. A lot of, especially Black communities, like we don't have these conversations, and most of the times when I get invited to speak, it's at like health conferences and like high level, a lot of white people there.
Sure.
Nothing wrong with having the message there, but it's more important that I ain't always been at this level of communication and being able
Mhm.
to speak to these kinds of things. And I think it's important to like create that bridge of steps where people might be misinformed or just unaware of the information, the risks, and how to communicate. So it's important that I'm able to find spaces like this that are open to conversations that may not be as sexy as like what Dakota normally would talk about, but to bring in that educational piece to help people go on to experience the safety and pleasure that they need in their relationship. So I appreciate you having me on.
My pleasure. I'm grateful for this platform 100%. I love the community, Dakota. And it's exactly what Dakota was talking about earlier, being open enough to have that conversation because they're one and the same. Health and pleasure are one and the same. You can't have one without the other. So it's so important to make sure that you're giving equal importance to the health of your body as well as the pleasure. Dakota, I'm gonna let you finish it up. Say something for the community. What else you got for us, girl? I'm so grateful for your time, energy. You are honesty over everything. You the real MVP right now. Let's go. Let's go.
No, thank you so much for having me. Seriously, like, if anyone walked away with one thing that they can apply today, tomorrow, yesterday to like improve
Mhm.
their relationship to their own pleasure and the pleasure they're experiencing with other people, I'm totally happy with that. So this is doing the work in real
This,
time.
this is the work. This is the work in real time. You guys look out for your book. Look out for her book, Conversations with the Coochie, coming out 2020 2028. I'm gonna hold you to it. I'm gonna give you 3 years, 4 years. Hey, if you don't come out with conversations with Coochie, I'm coming out with a book, Pillow
No,
Talk with my penis.
I'm going first. It's my turn.
We can race. We'll race to see whose book comes out first. All right, guys. Yeah, I appreciate the time, the energy, the effort. Thank you for all the work that you're doing. And I look forward to continued conversations. And next time I'm in Jersey, I'm hitting both of y'all up. Like, what's good? Where y'all at? I'm outside.
Sounds good.
I'm
Thank
outside.
you.
All right, guys. I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll tap in with
All right,
y'all.
appreciate it.
Bye. My community, they not like us. They not like us. They not like us. Y'all gonna be seeing me do that shit all summer. Yo, I appreciate the time, the energy, the vibes. I hope my community learned something. Conversations with the coochie. Pillow talk with my penis. All right, y'all. I'll see you guys next week. I'll tap in. Y'all be good. Y'all look for me later this week. And look for the t-shirts too. We got